Well, with me now to discuss all of this are John McTernan, former political secretary to Tony Blair, and Owen Jones, columnist for The Guardian. Welcome to you both. A serious amount of hate generated by this debate over Jeremy Corbyn and whether he'll win, and if he wins, what should happen to him. I mean, is all of this somewhat muddying the opportunity to properly debate what the future of the Labour Party should be? John?
Well, look, I think it is. I think that what's been lost in all this is the fact that the election defeat in May was one of the worst in Labour's history. It's absolutely one of the worst in Labour's history. And the fact the debate has gone quickly from the fact that we know voters want us to give them answers on immigration, on welfare, on the economy, to an analysis on the side, which is people voted for UKIP and for a right-wing Tory party and gave a right-wing Tory government a majority because Labour weren't left-wing enough. I mean, it's gone into a kind of, it's through the looking glass. Owen,
you're shaking your head.
Well, I mean, I often say this, so apologies if any viewers have heard me say it before, but I don't think people think in terms of left or right. I think they think in terms of issues to be addressed in a way that's convincing and coherent, that answers their everyday problems and issues. And I think the reason Jeremy Corbyn is doing so well and his opponents are on the back foot is he has an optimistic vision. He's offering policies which I think resonate with people, whether that be dealing with the huge housing crisis in this country, particularly that affecting the young, whether it be the National Education Service, tapping in, if you like, to the early optimism of Tony Blair, education, 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 supporting lifelong learning, whether it be modernising the country's infrastructure and investing in skilled jobs with a public investment bank and so on. I could go on. I mean, this is the problem.
But if the country wanted an anti-austerity government, surely they would have voted for...
Well, there's three main reasons. There's three main reasons that Labour lost. And, you know, take Scotland, and it's worth remembering. I don't mean this to rub your face in it, John, but you were part of a team which, as former Chief of Staff to Jim Murphy, which lost 40 out of 41 seats in Scotland to a party which positioned itself to the left. That had a huge impact in England and Wales as well, because lots of people didn't want a Labour government as they felt it, propped up by the SNP. The idea that Labour had spent too much money, even though the Tories had backed their spending, that was very firm. And Jeremy Corbyn's trying to rebut that, and this is the key point. I think when it comes to winning back Scottish voters, when it comes back to winning people who haven't voted, when it comes back to Green voters and indeed UKIP voters, many working class people who voted for that party, I actually think Jeremy Corbyn is best positioned to do that. But it has to be an open, democratic, friendly debate about issues, not about personalities, and that's the problem with this debate at the moment.
John, let's come back to the fundamentals of this. First of all, as we said in the introduction, you know, a number of people are saying that non-supporters are infiltrating the vote, people who wish to skew the vote in order to affect what happens to Labour in the future. I mean, do you think fundamentally that the Labour Party's system for checking applications, for weeding out suspicious applications, is robust enough?
No, it isn't. There's no doubt in my mind. There's too many people applying, and these are people who do not wish the Labour Party well. They wish the Labour Party ill. Whole swathes of people from other political parties are resigning from those parties and joining the party. But I mean, Owen said people don't think in terms of left and right, and give him that. Jeremy Corbyn wants to raise taxes, and Jeremy Corbyn wants to print money, and Jeremy Corbyn wants to borrow more. None of those, it doesn't matter whether you're left or right, those are not popular policies with voters. And that's, so it's a kind of, and the people who are coming into the party are people who kind of, even if they've always supported the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn's enthusing people who vote Labour, right? What we have to do to win a Labour government, win a majority, is actually to enthuse people who don't vote Labour and actually voted Tory or UKIP at the last election.
Oh, and you really want to come in, but just a moment. I mean, some people would say to you, John, that you would say that about the applications because, you know, the people that you would rather see, or the person that you would rather see running the Labour Party is apparently not doing so well in the polls.
No, I want the Labour Party to be full of people who actually support the Labour Party and want a Labour government. I don't want the flotsam and jetsam of Trotskyism and the Green movement to join the Labour Party. Ken Loach tries to get in, he gets put out because he's well known. Derek Hatton tries to get in, he was expelled from the party. Talk to membership secretaries, talk to MPs, they'll tell you there are people who should not be in the Labour Party who voted for other people who were members of other parties in May who are now pretending.
I love this idea. There are suddenly hundreds of thousands of sleeper Trotskyists in Britain. Look, this is the most democratic contest that the Labour Party has had in its history. I have to say, it was actually introduced originally as a sop to the right of the party to dilute trade union influence. Tony Blair himself, when it was introduced by Ed Miliband, said he'd wished he'd introduced it himself at the time. And according, Jeremy Corbyn has topped constituency Labour Party nominations. He's been cheered in every single hustings the most. And the YouGov poll suggests, whether it be members or people who've paid £3, he's topping it. Now, that poll, I think, may be overstating Jeremy Corbyn's lead, but it suggests support across the board. And just quickly on those policies, because policies are important, he's talking about increasing taxes on the rich. That is very popular. He's talking about quantitative easing instead of using it for banks to invest in infrastructure, which is backed by senior economists. We're printing money at the moment, but it's for banks. The whole point of it is to use that for infrastructure instead, to reflate the economy and actually create skilled jobs in infrastructure, modernising the economy. I think that's a healthy thing to do.
But a fair number of people in that YouGov poll who said they would vote for Jeremy Corbyn also said they would do that even though they didn't think that he could win the next election for Labour. I mean, what on earth is going on there? Why would you back someone you don't think could win?
The candidate in that poll who was, according to Labour members and supporters, who's the least electable by a landslide was Liz Kendall. So don't forget that. Yes, of course, there's no question whatsoever. The next Labour leader will have a mountain to climb. They will have to win back Scotland, and John's team obviously did catastrophically badly there. They'll have to win back people who didn't vote, people who voted UKIP, as well as winning over, yes, people who voted Tory, partly out of concerns because they thought, for example, they didn't want a weak Ed Miliband government as they saw it propped up by the SNP. I think that an optimistic vision can do that. That's what Jeremy offers.
John, you said if Jeremy Corbyn wins, he should be removed immediately. Where is democracy in that?
Every single day, if Jeremy Corbyn was leader, is a wasted day for Labour, a damaging day for Labour, a day in which Labour goes backwards. The country cannot afford another Tory government in 2020.
But isn't that cherry-picking democracy?
No. If Jeremy Corbyn gets elected, it will be the greatest disaster in the history of the Labour Party, and we've had some disastrous leaders. Every day he's allowed to stay in office is a day that destroys the Labour Party. If you want an alternative to the Tory government, you have to vote for anybody but Corbyn. If you want a Labour Party that can form a government, that man cannot win, and if he wins, he cannot stay.
Is there an issue with the other candidates not actually standing up and making a good case against Jeremy Corbyn? Are they fighting hard enough to make their point of view come across?
Look, in my view, Andy Burnham should have attacked Jeremy Corbyn from the get-go. I think he was soft on him. I think Jeremy and Yvette should have taken on some of the presuppositions of Jeremy Corbyn. The absurd notion that you can fund everything in the country that's wanted and needed by the country through a magic money tree, that should be taken on head-on.
Oh, Owen?
Well, no, absolutely not. I mean, look, the whole point is if Jeremy Corbyn wins, he wins because he has an overwhelming, decisive mandate from Labour members and Labour supporters. It would be beyond contentious towards democracy and be seen as such by the country if the Parliamentary Labour Party repudiated that. And yes, of course, the reason Jeremy Corbyn is doing so well is the heirs to New Labour have no longer anything to say. They have no vision. They have no clear policies. New Labour originally wanted investment in public services. They don't support that. They repudiated Labour's spending record. They used to have things like the minimum wage, fantastic achievements, tax credits. They now, many of them undermining that as well. If the other candidates offered an optimistic, clear, inspiring vision, they would be doing a lot better. Jeremy is, that's why he's doing so well at the moment. There's no doubt about that.
John, is it the right time now for Andy Burnham, Yvette Cooper and Liz Kendall to get together and say, two of us have to step down from this, there should be one candidate against Jeremy Corbyn?
They should get together, and what they should say to the people who are going to vote for them is, if you vote for me, do not give a second or a third preference to Jeremy Corbyn. If you're voting for me, you're voting for any candidate for the leadership apart from Corbyn. That's how they can draw together. An AV system you don't need to withdraw to get the votes to transfer. And I just want to say, the most absurd thing I've ever heard, genuinely, in my life in politics, and I've heard a lot of absurd things, is Owen Jones trying to claim that he and Jeremy Corbyn are the Blairites now.
No, we're defending the great achievements of New Labour, which I'm afraid you repudiated. I'm very proud to do that.
Most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life.
And you don't believe it. It's a tragic irony.
It's a tragic irony. You don't believe Corbyn's elected.
Can I respond to that? It's so ironic that I was an arch critic of so much of what Blair and Brown did, deregulation of the city, the war in Iraq. When it comes to Labour's spending record, that what has happened is which was backed by the Tories at the time, they backed every single penny. I have been out there for the last few years defending Labour, of Brown and Blair, that era, from that charge against them. And I have to say, John, you've yourself played a destructive role in this. You called people morons for supporting Jeremy Corbyn. I'm afraid all that has done, if you really want to take on the Corbyn campaign, played right into their hands, because that negativity, I think people are sick of it in politics. And it
In a
rebounded
line,
badly
John, do you want to respond?
Both Owen and me are commentators. We don't shape opinion. What we say is express our views. The Labour Party needs to be saved. The Labour Party was saved by the right before, it'll be saved by the right again.
OK, I'm afraid that is all we have time
First
for.
word and last
McTernan
word. I'll let you off, though.
and Owen Jones, thank you very much.